Welcome back to the Live with Purpose podcast. It's your girl, Lisa. Listen, as long as you're alive, you have purpose. Today, I'm here with the most special guest who has ever graced this podcast. My mom, Angela Satchell. Hey, Mom.
Hey.
Tell the people about yourself.
So, my name is Angela Satchell. The one thing that I love doing more than anything else besides parenting and grandparenting is coaching. It is my goal to make sure those that I come in contact with are searching for their purpose, being able to find themselves and find their way.
Mm-hmm.
So my coaching life is the most rewarding life after parenting that you can imagine. I think I love coaching because I do believe it is fulfilling my purpose of what God needs for me to do. But also, in order to find your purpose, you have to recognize your value. And so what I do with the coaching is try to get people to know themselves, figure out how they want to show up in life.
Yeah.
And to give them the skill set to be able to show up in that manner.
Yeah, that's good. We wanted to do today's episode basically just about going into 2024. And me and my mom, we have a lot of deep conversations. Our family in general has a lot of thoughtful conversations. But as you can just hear from what she shared, it's really valuable to have her input on things and to hear her thoughts on things. So as we're going into the new year, me and her were just talking, and we were talking about the story of Abraham, which I'll recap in a second. And we were just talking about the journey, but also letting God have the full and final say in the journey. And the main parts we were talking about, so if you haven't read Abraham's story, it starts in Genesis 12 and goes to Genesis 22. But the main part we're talking about starts in Genesis 15 and then ends in 22. But the main thing we wanted to focus on was talking about how Abraham was given a promise to be the father of many nations, which sounds great and all. However, him and his wife were barren. And so he's basically, listen, God, the math isn't mathing. I need help. How is this going to happen? And so God just was I promise you for sure this will happen. So his wife, Sarai at the time, he was Abram at the time, they get together and they decide, you know what, let's have one of our servants have relations with you, as it were, and we'll bring forth a child into this world, and that's how we'll start this legacy that God has for us. A lot of stuff happens in between, but towards the end of this story that we're going to talk about, Abraham and Sarah produce their own child authentically, and God tells Abraham to take his child to the mountain and sacrifice his child, which is very confusing because it's God, you gave this to me and now you want me to get rid of it. And of course it ends with him not having to sacrifice his child, and God was this was a test of your faith. And I was just talking to Mom about how I really love the end of that story because I feel I've been through a year of okay, but who is it really? Who are you really going to focus on? And she was just challenging me to really think about the journey. And so that's what we wanted to talk about today. Right, Ma?
That's what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, so that was a brief overview. We're not trying to go heavy on the Bible study, but we wanted to let y'all know where we was coming from. You feel what I'm saying? So, Mom, what from that story we were talking about with Abraham and just things we talked about, what is the importance of the journey?
So there's a book called Atomic Habits,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in that book he talks a lot about the journey. And I loved how he talks about it because in the book he talks about changing just one thing, right? And in this case, they did everything they could to have a child, right? Everything they knew at the time. I'm sure in today's life it would be fertility treatments and, having eggs frozen and replanted and all the stuff that they do. And there was still no child.
Yeah.
So sometimes God will give you a vision, and that vision is out there.
Yeah.
And we get impatient because we're people,
Yeah.
right? You get impatient. God, you said I was going to be, the father of many nations. That starts with a child. You
Right.
recognize that, God.
Step
so
one.
then you start explaining to God what he already knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look, God, I can't get there if we don't start somewhere. Come on now.
Right.
Right? And by now, Sarai and Abram are old. Like, Sarah is 80 years old. When last time you heard of an 80-year-old person having a baby? Anyway. But even through all of that, right? All the way up, and I will stop at when they make the decision to bring Hagar in and have a child with Hagar. All of that. I'm believing you, God. I trust you, God. I know you're going to bring this child. I just got to do whatever. I got to eat the whatever you got to eat. I got to do this, or, I got to have the fertility treatments. I'm going to take the fertility pills, whatever it was that she did back in the day. I believe you, God. I trust you, God. But they got weary and well-doing, right?
Yeah.
And when they got weary, it opened the door, right? It opened the door, and the devil was able to come in and say, you need to help God out.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go talk to Hagar.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and Sarah, in my mind at least, this is not biblical, y'all. Sarah probably liked Hagar. She's probably best friends with her.
Mm.
She's like, Hagar, I need you to have a baby for me. Hagar is like, well, if you say so.
Mm-hmm.
We people, when we get weary, we open that door, we try to help God. Right? And inevitably, it goes left.
Yeah.
And so was the case here, right?
Yeah.
It went left.
Yeah.
She, life was good for a minute or three.
Mm-hmm.
And then another door of problem. I'm sure Sarah got jealous.
Mm-hmm.
So now we got yet another sin to lay on top of that. But even doing this, if you look at the Bible, it doesn't talk a lot about what's going on with Abraham. Because Abraham at this point thinks he's done what God told him to do. Right? That's what he did, right? I followed up. This is my child, because, he's going to be the father of many nations. So I have a child, right? So I did what God told me to do. So many times when we help God and we get to whatever we think the actual end is supposed to be, right? It's because that's what our mind thought was the answer.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the answer God had, but God said, you're gonna have a child because you're gonna be the father of many nations. I have a child. See, God, I did what you asked me to do. So even through all of this journey, I want us to recognize that Abraham was trying to honor God.
Right.
Right. When we go through journeys, to bring it back to us, God can make a promise. I'm going to give you whatever it is, right? I'm going to give you a car. Let's just go there. And we go out and we work really hard and we save our money. And some little clinker is now $1,500, and that's all we got in the bank. You go, see, God, you helped me save this $1,500 so I can get this clinker car. You don't know. Maybe God had a brand new, I saw a Lamborghini for you. Mm-hmm. But you done took your little $1,500 and helped God out.
Yeah.
It's the journey. Mm-hmm. It's the hearing God. It's the trusting God.
Yeah.
Right? Because we get weary in well doing.
Yeah.
Because it's not happening on our timetable.
Mm-hmm.
It's not happening. It doesn't look like what we thought it was going to look like. So if you think about all that was happening and the journey that he went through, I haven't even gotten to the point where he actually had Isaac, right? So even all of that, and I think the point I'm making is this is a very long journey. And Abraham went through ups and downs and ups and downs. But he trusted God. He trusted God. Even when he messed up, he and Sarah messed up, he trusted God. And I think that's something we need to take away, right? That's the real takeaway, is do you trust God?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you might mess up a little bit, but do you trust him?
I love what you just said, though, because it reminds me of, like, you know, the scripture, like, his ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts. That's, like, literally, like, to your point, Abraham was doing his best. Like, literally, like, God, I want what you have and I want what you said. So let me, like, help you figure it out, to your point. Which, like, I think what I noticed in the story, because I think this is what I've been through this year, so that's why it's so easy for me to jump to, like, the end part. Not the end part, but the next part that we're going to talk about, which is, I think he got so tired of trying to figure things out himself that he was just like, whatever you say, God. Because if you think about it, he's trusting, he's believing. We have this baby, and my baby mama acted some kind of way with my wife and my son. And so then my son threw the baby mama. And I think the thing that I recognized when I was rereading it is, like, Abraham loved Ishmael, which is the wife, which is the son that he has with Hagar. It wasn't like, oh, those just my side kids. It's like he was like, I love him. Like, that's what I thought the promise was. Like, and though it was a counterfeit, it doesn't mean he didn't love him. And so, as I was thinking about that, I was just thinking, like, once the real promise came to pass, and even they had to fight through unbelief. Remember when basically the Lord appears to them and it's like, you're going to have a son in the next year, and Sarah laughs.
Yeah.
Genesis 18. I have it, like, written out because, like, she laughs, and God's like, why'd she laugh? And she was like, I didn't laugh because she thought he couldn't hear her. And he was like, you did laugh. Is anything too hard for God?
Yeah, baby.
Is anything impossible for God? Which obviously no. But, like, I just haven't seen it yet. So they give birth to Isaac, as you were talking about. And even through that, like, Isaac, Ishmael, and Hagar are beefing. And it's like, all right, some got to go. Like, and I think strife in your home is exhausting.
Yep.
Every other thing is hard, yes. But in the place I'm supposed to have peace, yeah, people I love fighting with each other. Like, this is exhausting. And so I think when it came down to, like, the point where God tells Abraham to take Isaac to the mountain and sacrifice him, he's probably just like, yo, dog, I'm so tired of doing things my own way. Sure. If this is what you want me to do, I'm going to believe in you and believe in whatever you're telling me to do it and however you're telling me to do it. Because I've tried so hard to do it by myself. 0 stars on that. So I'm just going to go about it the way God is telling me to go about it. And I feel like that is the year that I've had, which is I literally have gotten to the point where I'm tired. Like, I am tired of doing things in my own strength. That is just like, when I go into 2024, I'm like, God, what do you want to do? And how do you want to do it? And believing that God's going to fulfill his promises. But it's like the how that honestly feels like none of my concern. I'm just going to follow him step by step. And I think that's something I really wanted to share, was that it's tough. Like, it's not an easy thing to arrive at that. Because to your point, there's a journey to get to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if someone had told me sooner, like, really just trust God step by step. It looks different now than it did last year, and I'm sure I thought I was doing that, but like really leaning into the idea that like his ways are not our ways and his thoughts are not our thoughts. And that has to be something we surrender to. You know what I mean? Yeah. And not forsaking the journey in the process. Because I'm not going to lie, that's why Mom is here. Huh? I was about ready to forsake the journey. Be like, well, throw it all away. Forget everything I've done. It was inadequate. It didn't line up. And yeah, there's room for growth. Yeah, there's room for improvement. But like, to not forget the journey and to still honor the journey, I think is important. Because everything Abraham went through led to that moment on the mountain where he was like, God, I trust that you're going to provide. Even when he was going up the mountain with his son was like, where are we going? Where's the sacrifice? God will provide. Even if the sacrifice God provided was Isaac, God will provide. And I think even if he had to, not I think, we often talk about this and people preach about this verse, where it's like, even if he ended up having to sacrifice Isaac, he trusts the promise from God so much that he knew that God would bring him another son. That God would fulfill his word, because he already done it before. So it's like almost like when you go through the journey, God shows you who he is along the way.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because that along the way thing
Mm-hmm.
is incredibly important, because the story doesn't stop with them being on the mountain. Most people stop preaching, teaching at that point.
Right.
But Abraham's life goes on. So he hadn't reached wherever God had for him.
Right.
Right. He was continuing through the journey. Right.
Yeah.
And like you said, I love that you brought up the situation in his home life and the strife and stuff that was there.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you manage all of that, right? How do you go through that? I have this thing about the journey.
Yeah.
Is you learn something.
Mm-hmm.
If God, I have this thing with God. When he sends me through things, it is my goal to learn whatever it is I'm supposed to learn going through that journey.
Yeah.
Right? It does build your faith.
Yeah.
It does allow you to trust God for more and more. It allows you to see that God does have a plan when you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
But God doesn't allow you to go through things just so you can build your faith.
Mm-hmm.
It's also to teach you something.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look back, I need you to look back over that year
Mm-hmm.
and figure out all the things that God taught you along the way.
Yeah.
All those things that you're going to take into this next season of your life,
Mm-hmm.
right? What was it that this thing, whether it's good or bad,
Mm-hmm.
happened, right? Think about the events that happened and take away from that, I've learned I can't trust everybody.
My God.
That's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's that it's a thing,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't mean you walk into a relationship going, I don't trust you.
Mm-hmm.
It means you walk into a relationship and you say, God, can I trust this person?
Yeah.
Can I? How much do I trust this person? What do I trust this person with?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, I'm not saying that's what you learn, but I'm giving you an example,
yeah.
okay? Because you and God need to get together and figure out what you learned,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also, what I said in that was, I confer with God every time,
Yeah.
right? I don't be making things up. Well, I can help God out if I just go ahead and trust this person, right?
Mm-hmm.
They seem very nice people.
Yeah.
A lot of very nice people out there, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them can you trust,
Yeah.
right? And God will bring people in your life where he'll say, see that one? I'm going to need you to get close to that one.
Yeah.
But again, it's going to God saying, I met this person today.
Mm-hmm.
And this person just touched my heart. You know, like you were talking about Stephanie, she has touched your heart,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, I got you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there are going to be people that God will bring to you
Mm-hmm.
to comfort you. There are people that God's going to put in your life that are just here to take you to that next step.
Mm-hmm.
That you need to tap out with them,
Yeah.
right? So there's a season for people.
Mm-hmm.
What's that thing I was telling you about? There are branches, there are leaves, and then there are the trunks
The
of
roots,
the tree,
yeah.
real roots that you can plant with. So it tells you whatever I'm going through,
Mm-hmm.
I know God is taking me through with purpose,
Yeah.
right? A lot of times I look back at my work life.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working way too long.
Mm-hmm.
And something will happen where something new will come in. Well, it's really not that new.
Mm-hmm.
I can apply 2 or 3 different things from my work experience that will give me a jump start to move this new project forward, right? But what I actually remember, right? What actually gets me sometimes is when I'll look at something and God will just bring it to my remembrance and say, remember when I showed you this?
Yeah.
You ain't know what that had to do with life.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you're going to use that.
Yeah.
Right? So all the way through, trusting God, all the way through, building up memories, building up faith, understanding what God is trying to show you. All of those things, if you look at the story,
Mm-hmm.
when old boy started up that mountain, he probably was, like you said, because all of us expect, I don't like this, expect to be beat down before we can rise up.
Yeah.
What does beat down mean? What does it mean? It means that we are now ready to surrender.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't have to be beat down. God's not a beat down kind of God.
Mm-hmm.
God's a loving God.
Yeah.
You're going through challenges.
Yeah.
It's about how do you look at things. You're not you need to stop looking at it. Oh God, I'm going through another one. Oh God, can you just get me out of this?
Mm-hmm.
So we beat ourselves
Yeah.
because God ain't beat you.
Yeah.
God said, I'm gonna need you to go through.
Yeah.
If you're watching God and all the mess that you're going through, you just step over it.
Mm-hmm.
Step on through it. Might get your feet dirty,
Mm-hmm.
roll on back out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like, what are you looking for? When Abraham went up that mountain, ain't let nobody get between him and God.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing got between him and God. I'm sure his heart and his head was freaking out.
Yeah.
But he was like, but God, I trust you.
Yeah.
God, I know you have a better thing. God, I know your promise. God, I'm standing on your promise.
Yeah.
Don't matter how bad it gets. God, I know you got me.
Yeah.
That is one of the hardest things that Christians have to understand, that God has them. He don't need your help.
Right.
And we all help.
Yeah.
I want to help you, God.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But at some point,
Yeah.
and I don't focus on all the bad things.
Yeah.
I just try, and I don't always succeed, y'all. So I'm not, super Christian either.
Mm-hmm.
I have bad times.
So we all.
But I try as best as I can to always focus on where God is taking me to.
Yeah.
That glory to glory to glory. That's how I live my life, right? So going from glory to glory, there's this going part.
There's the 2 part.
Yeah. You're going, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I just trust God.
I think to kind of wrap up everything we've been saying into like a bow, if you will, I feel like what I've really heard is like, as you are about to set your goals for 2024, think about the journey that you've had this past year. And acknowledge, you always say this, find the gift. I like when you say that. What was the gift in each thing? And then as you move forward with your goals, to acknowledge, and I'm not calling them goals. I have decided that I've spent so much time thinking about what can I do, that this year I'm just going to go to 2024 with, I'm believing God for this, and making a list of things I'm believing God for. And then praying about what do those next steps look like as often as possible. Same idea, just different font, if you will. Just a different remix on it. Instead of deciding now what my actions for the next 12 months, which I feel like that's a lot that I used to put on myself, is like, these are the steps you're going to take the next 12 months. Do you know what I've this year experienced firsthand? You don't know what's going to happen in the next 12 months. You don't know what's going to happen in a week, bro. And that's not fair to put on yourself. So, yeah, and I think I wanted to circle back on something you said really quick. You talked about how God doesn't beat you down. I think when I talk about getting tired, it's like I'm tired of doing this myself. Because God, to your point, we beat ourselves down. Mm-hmm. God is not saying, I want you to suffer. God is saying, I want you to learn and grow. And it's like how the Bible talks about discipline and how discipline doesn't feel good, but it's for your best. And that's like the love part. It's like, it is for your good, it's for your best. And he says, the yoke I give you is easy and the burden you carry should be light. So therefore, if I'm actually doing it God's way and actually doing it with God, it shouldn't be that tiring or that heavy. It should be more, not easy. It's never, I don't think things are easy per se, but it shouldn't stress you out. It should be peaceful. Do you think? What are you thinking?
So, I got this thing. I have no problem with goals, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you need to pray and ask God to put His desires in your heart. And those are the desires that you want to move forward with in 2024.
Yeah.
We people, we'll go back to the car example. I want a brand new Lamborghini in 2024. Mm-hmm. I've told God what I wanted, and the word says, come boldly before the Lord and tell Him what you want.
Yeah.
Got no problem with that. So that's why I said the goals and setting down what you want. However, let's be real. God has a plan already in place for you for 2024.
Right.
And when you start setting those goals, sometimes you also start helping them.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can get them to match up this year.
Yeah.
Right? So happy to have, I want that Lamborghini on your goals. But say, God, how about a Lamborghini? Mm-hmm. And if He says that's an interesting thought, you just put it on the list. Mm-hmm. Right? Maybe next year.
Maybe He'll flat out say yes. Maybe He'll flat out say no.
Maybe He'll say right.
Yeah.
You don't know. But whatever the desires of your heart are, you got to go to God with them. So I'm not trying to take those.
Yeah.
But you need to be led by God.
Yeah.
You don't need to be telling Him what you want. And now, He's not a tote and fetch God.
Yeah.
That's not who He is.
Yeah.
You don't say, God, I want my Lamborghini. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the year, you get annoyed at God because you didn't get your Lamborghini.
Right.
Right? Or by March, you're over it.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, right? Go to God. Say, God, what are the things that you want for me for 2024?
Yeah.
And then be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Be still. And know that He is God.
Yeah.
And you may get a different set of wants that way. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because, I want my Lamborghini this year. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But I don't necessarily list out what I want God to do for me. Mm-hmm. I ask God to put His desires in my heart,
Yeah.
and that's the way I want to walk.
Mhm.
I'm not always happy with some of the stuff He puts up in there,
Yeah.
and I try to negotiate with Him.
Mhm.
I mean, all these things. I'm just saying, it's how we are.
Mhm.
God, can we not do A? Can we do B instead? It's A prime.
Mhm.
You be helping God,
Yeah.
but if I go with His A,
Mhm.
I'm at peace. We get out of peace and out of perfect peace when we're out of what God's best is.
Right.
We're into permissive will instead of
Perfect
perfect will.
Mhm.
So, as you're going into 2024, happy to have you write down your goals, your desires, but label them as desires.
Mhm.
Don't label because you don't want to beat yourself at the end of 24 if all your boxes aren't checked.
Right. I think for me, that's what I've been doing. Is like, these are the goals, and I really do believe they're what God told me to do. But I made the list not open to what God was going to do throughout the year. Does that make sense? And I think that is the problem that you just addressed. It's just like, make your list and pray about it. But also, I think you have to know yourself. You know what I mean? Because I think, for me, as a person, I know the whole making a list of goal things hasn't worked. Because to your point, I'll get to the end of the year, and I won't be like, oh, well, God remixed the plan. Or God had a plan, and I had a plan. I'll get to the end of the year and be like, God, I didn't do these things. I'm the worst. Like,
Yeah, and you
so
love
how
your
can
list.
I do love a list. So to your point, to list them as desires, I just list, this is what I'm believing God for. That if He wants to do it, would love that. Big fan. If it doesn't happen this year, I'm not going to stop believing Him for those things.
And the other thing I want you to look at and to see if it did happen, but it doesn't look like what you thought it was going to look like.
Right.
I think that's also a thing that we think. Actually, my Lamborghini example, right? Suppose I end up with a Kia.
Mm-hmm. You still have a car. And that's good.
Right. I can get from point A to point B because that's what I was desiring.
Right.
Is a mode of transportation to get from point A to point B.
Right.
And so now I'm disappointed because I don't have a Lamborghini, I have a Kia.
Mm-hmm.
God promised me transportation.
Yeah.
Right, you get down to the real root of what you're praying for.
Right.
And what God actually put in your heart, transportation in this sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you leap to, God has all the money. He can pop me a Lamborghini. Maybe He wants to. Maybe He doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your friend next door. Maybe you need to make a friend because your new friend has a car that'll get you back and forth to work because y'all work the same place.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Look and see when you check your list from 23. What was the root of that Lamborghini, and did God fulfill your need?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily your want.
Yeah.
So it's all those things go into trying to figure out, are we in God's perfect will?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot. If you spent that time trying to figure out, did God give me what I asked for and what should I ask for and stuff, you ain't got time to be all stressed out because you're so busy trying to be a child of God and trying to please God.
Yeah. That's good. So going into the new year, what is something you learned this year that informed how you're going to go into 2024?
So I started this year off wondering if I truly trusted God. I said a lot in this cast about trusting God. And I have thought for many years that I trust Him completely. And then something challenged that faith. And so this whole year, I've been trying to figure out, do I trust you, God?
Mm-hmm.
Do I trust you to give me what I need? And I'm coming out of 24 going, I trust you, God.
Mhm.
And for me, that's the happiest place that I can be.
Yeah.
A lot of crazy going on. I ain't gonna lie right now, but I trust God.
Yeah.
And I know I've made some decisions. I've made those decisions. Now I believe God told me to make that decision. But I also trust God that if I made the decision and it was inappropriate, it's not what He wanted, that He will make the difference in moving me to where I need to be. Because I trust God.
Yeah. That's good. So going into 2024, how is that going to inform how you go about your year? Just trusting God moment to moment?
Moment to moment.
Yeah.
That thing going up that mountain, I'm sure Abraham, every step he was like, I trust you, God. I trust you, God. You said, and repeating back to God what He said. You said, I'm going to be the father of many nations. God, I trust you.
Yeah.
God, you said, and you can go through the Word and find things in the Word that will help you with this, right? God, I trust you. Every step, God, I trust you. When Isaac asked about, well, where's the sacrifice? I'm sure he was going, God, I trust you.
Mhm.
That you will have a sacrifice when I get up there. If this is not your will, oh God, I trust you. You know what I'm saying? Just constantly living in that space of I trust you, God.
Yeah. That's good. This year taught me to be open to what God is going to do. I think I learned a lot of openness this year through having no choice but to submit to what God was doing. And I think that's something I really want to focus on going into 2024 is submission to God and openness to what He's going to do. Because I do this thing every year when I turn a new age and I like claim a phrase over it. And, you know, this year was 28, time to elevate. And to your point of being open to what it looks like, didn't think it would look like this. Because personally, as an individual, I have elevated a lot. But that also looked like me no longer working at the place I thought I'd be working at for a while. That also looked like me having to start working with a life coach and like really thinking like, what do I want to do next? That also has looked like a lot of confused moments towards the end of this year. And the beginning of the year, feeling so sure, and by the end of the year, thinking something completely different. And so, as frustrating as it was at first, I think I've come to a place of just being like, but honestly, it's all on God. Like, God has it figured out. I'm submitted to how He wants to do it, and I trust how He wants to do it. And I want Him to literally 0 stars on me doing it myself. The way I was doing it DIY, don't like that. Like, not interested in that. I just prefer that I follow God moment to moment. Because even, you know, people will ask me, well, what's next for you? Figuring that out with God. Because if it were me, I'd have it figured out. And I'd have a few pitches on what's next, and I'd just go after that. And to your point of doing it yourself, I would just be like, you know what? This is what's next. Got it, God. And I'd be doing it. But that has not proven to not be an effective method. Nor is it getting me closer to God and what He's calling me to do. So all that to say, going into 2024, I really want to be open to where God is leading me in terms of my actions and steps towards purpose. I'm excited for that.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, any other thoughts for the people, Mom?
No.
Okay. Mom has Instagram now. If you want to follow her, you can follow her at Coach Angela S. Do you have anything else you want the people to know?
No.
Okay.
That's new for me, you guys. So be patient. If you do follow me, it's probably not going to be a whole lot of stuff
Content.
happening.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, we're working through it because technology is not my first name.
That's all right.
So, but also, if you want to contact me, I think you can contact me that way as well.
Yeah. She'll be on there. She has the app. We're working on posting more content. We're getting out there. If you want to follow this podcast, you can follow us on Instagram at Live with Purpose Pod. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me on all social media platforms at Lisa K. Satchell. Appreciate you guys for watching. I can't wait to see what you guys accomplish in this new year. If you have any thoughts, questions, reflections, feel free to message either of us. If you have any prayer requests going into this new year, I just really believe God is in the business of really showing people who they are this year in 2024. If you know Romans 8:19, it talks about the world eagerly awaits for the revealing of the sons and daughters. And I really feel like that's what's going to happen this year, is that we're going to be revealed according to God's will. So I believe that, praying that for you. Let's go. 2024! Yay.
Yeah.